Welcome to Oasis, St. Luke's midweek service. My name is Deanna Heiss, and behind the camera we have Doug Castle. My son, my oldest son, is a senior in high school this year, and there has been a lot of talk in recent months about what comes next for him, for his peer group. Lots of different options. Some kids are choosing the military, some are entering the workforce right away, some are continuing their education. A lot of time spent on choosing and a lot of time spent waiting to be chosen. Specifically around those who are deciding to pursue their education, there are some kids who may have applied to a lot of different schools, but really have the one in mind that is their dream school. The one sweatshirt they always wear, the one team they always cheer for, the one decal on their water bottle. And that is their first choice. And it's turning out for some of them that that school did not choose them. We have all probably gone through seasons of our life where we are waiting to be chosen for a sports team, for an elite music group, for a school, for a job. Earlier this week, I was doing a devotion and I came across this verse from the Bible. It's specifically from the Message translation. It's Psalm 16, verse 5. My choice is you, God, first and only, and now I find I'm your choice. God always chooses us. No matter who did not choose us, the creator of the universe always chooses us to be loved, to be cherished, to live an abundant life. And when I can be quiet for long enough to remember that, I am pretty excited to already have been chosen. Welcome to Oasis. No matter who you are or where you come from, you have already been chosen by God, and you are welcome here. Our guest speaker for the meditation and word today is Kim Nickel. I'm reminded of some of those crime dramas on TV where they dust for fingerprints to find out who's been where. And if a team were to come and dust St. Luke's for metaphorical fingerprints, pretty sure they would find Kim Nickel just about everywhere. To just name a few of the things that I know that she's been involved in, and I'm sure there's a lot that I don't know. She has served 2 terms on the church council, been on the stewardship committee, is one of the founding members of Luke's Closet, which supports foster and kinship families here in Dane County. She lends her graphic design talent to the creative and colorful logos and postcards and mailings that we get, and that's just tip of the iceberg. So welcome, Kim.
Thank you.
So for those people who might not have had a chance to cross paths with you, give us just a little bit of history, give us a little background, where you grew up, who's in your family, how you came to live in this area, and how you came to choose St. Luke's.
Yeah, I grew up in Janesville. I went to college in Stevens Point. I moved back to Madison. I met a boy who took me up to Merrill, where we lived for 10 years, and then we moved back to Madison with our 2 children, Annie, who's now a sophomore in high school, and Jack, who's 12. And that boy turned out to be my husband, Ted.
All right, and how, when you came to this area, did you already have your eyes set on St. Luke's, or did you do some church shopping, or what attracted you?
Good question. No, we went to one other church prior to coming to St. Luke's, and then we came into St. Luke's, and we have not left. I think it's fair to say that we fell in love with the vibe, right? Like there's an energy, you go through the list, the worship, the music, the youth programs, but there's just a vibe here that is unlike any other church that Ted and I had ever experienced. There's reverence, but it's not stuffy, and it felt like home. And as such, it has been.
Mm-hmm. Well, St. Luke's is not necessarily a mega church. It is still plenty big. And tell us how you value and how you found yourself able to plug yourself into different areas where you felt like you could best use your gifts.
It was not instantaneous. It took a while, and now it's hard to imagine life any other way. Right? I had a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old when we started here, and my husband was traveling all the time. Just coming to church was a victory, and just making it through a worship service was even more of a victory, because of course I had the child that didn't want to go to the nursery. I can feel my heart beating fast, because you started out with the introduction about choosing God, and I kid you not, on my note, I have a note about choosing God. And so I'm going to back up a little bit with my faith and kind of give some background to kind of pick up on the how do you connect at St. Luke's question. I have Annie and Jack in this world with me. I have a daughter in heaven, and she would be 18 this summer. And she died in a way that I wouldn't wish on anyone. But it was on the C-section table when they pulled her out and she wasn't breathing, that I started saying the Lord's Prayer. Not anything conscious, not anything that I decided to do. It just came. I don't even think I finished it, to be honest. Ted's crying. I was at a loss. And in hindsight, I feel like looking back on that, like you said, God has always chosen us. We don't always choose God, but at that moment, I publicly declared that I was choosing God. And it set me on a path. And that path, it wasn't fast or furious by any means. It was slow, and the church we attended in northern Wisconsin was stuffy and didn't fuel my faith. You went out of obligation, but still I did. And we came to St. Luke's, and that vibe and that energy was here. I didn't know how to connect again. I had a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old and was single parenting many days. But it happened, it evolved, and it started, I'd come to Wednesday night dinners just out of sheer desperation for something, something other than food being thrown across the table, right?
I remember those days well.
yeah, right? And the 3 of us would sit at a table by ourselves, and we'd see everyone mixing and mingling, and lots of smiles and friendly faces, But it took a long time before someone sat with us. And while I knew this was my place, it wasn't that fast and furious, this is my path. And so we did the Wednesday night dinners, and then at some point someone said, hey, I'm thinking of starting a Bible study, are you in? And I said yes. And that put me in a group with an amazing group of women who all had peas being thrown across the table at them at dinner as well. And we showed each other a lot of grace and love and depth and hard questions and easy questions and fun and fellowship and everything that can come in a space where there's a foundation of grace. And then other things evolved, truthfully. Luke's Closet was a spark truly from the Holy Spirit. There are people that didn't know each other that came together, were kind of going on different paths and merging towards each other. And St. Luke's kind of facilitated the introduction, and then it just took off and ran. And the founding mothers have been going ever since. And it's people that my life wouldn't normally encounter. And that's one of the things that I love about getting involved at church, is because so much of our lives in Middleton, as a suburban lifestyle, is a straight path, right? There's your work people, there's your neighborhood people, there's your soccer sidelines people. And church is the opportunity to be connected to a greater community of people, and I love that, And I was struck when my daughter went to high school and the counselors and all the kids were saying, get involved, try everything, what you put into it is what you get out of it. And it's so true, and as adults we forget that. It's easy to tell our kids, and it's harder for us as adults to kind of step out of our comfort zone and do an Oasis.
Fair enough. Touche.
Yep. So there you go.
Well, thank you so much for sharing such a personal story that was so pivotal in your faith journey.
Yeah.
Thank you for trusting us with that. And I'm really glad that you pointed out that it took a while for you to sort of find your niche and find where that is. And I think there can be a misconception when you see people who are deeply connected and deeply involved that it happened right away. They just started day one and signed up for a million things and found their people and found their gifts. Yeah. And that's not always the way it is. And that wasn't my experience either. And I think I'm really glad that you reminded all of us. And for some people who might have attended St. Luke's a couple times and are thinking, maybe, I think I like it. Sometimes it's a lightning bolt and you find it, and that's great. But for a lot of people, like you said, it is trying to figure out, what am I going to put into this?
Right.
I want to get this out of it. How do I do that? And that takes time, and that takes prayer, and that takes exposure. And so thank you for reminding all of us that it takes patience too.
Yeah, I will also tag on to that. There was a point when Paul approached me about joining a committee or doing something, and it didn't sing to me, right? It wasn't like, oh yeah, that would be fun. And so I'm like, well, I don't want to do that, but I can help you with this piece of it, right? Mm-hmm. So, right, there's the list of options, right? And then there are the things that come from our heart. And sometimes it's a little bit of both. And so, yeah, I would just encourage people to be open to all of that.
Nice. So you're here on Sundays, and I know you do a lot of committee work. You're with Luke's Closet. And you mentioned community earlier. So how does your faith inform how you parent, how you're a friend, your professional life? What does your faith look like? I'm going to call it Monday through Saturday,
Yeah.
even though I know it's not only on Sunday that you're here, but how does that live itself out in your life on the other days?
So as a graphic designer, I tend to be a visual person. And so I think there's this, how does faith inform your life? There's kind of a line or an arrow that kind of instantly is drawn in that conversation. And I see it more as a circle. There isn't a beginning or an end. It kind of rolls and evolves, right? And so as faith kind of comes into my daily life, it circles into my friends and my family, and then it kind of keeps building momentum. And that has been exciting. So a few ways is that, one, it has given me great talking points with my kids. Hey, I'm doing an Oasis, Annie, can you help me with my makeup? Or I've got to go pack clothes for Luke's closet, anyone want to come help? Or sharing stories of some of the families that I've encountered and the stories behind those kiddos, right? And then Jack wants to move the donation card on a Sunday morning and empty it out, right? So there are those kinds of ways that it kind of oozes into the family. And thankfully, Ted is at a point where he can be home more, and so he can balance kind of the kid duties if I have to get to do something at church, right? So it really does kind of become a family decision in that respect. And that's great. That's great. And I love being able to use my professional skills at church. As someone who can't sing a tune, the most I have to contribute to music is clapping. And so often in church, right, like when you think of how do you volunteer at church, it's through music, right? Or maybe it's counting the money. I can't do math either. So that kind of eliminates a lot of kind of traditional volunteer opportunities. And so I love that St. Luke's has so many ways that people can connect and engage and give.
And that's a great setup for my next question, which is stewardship, I think, has been using the concept of time, talent, and treasure for a long time. T3, 3T, there's a little catchphrase there. What does that mean for you personally, for you and your family, the concept of time, talent, and treasure? What does that look like for you as you think about your faith and church?
So let me say, no one grows up saying that they want to be on the stewardship committee at church. Right? Let's just throw that one down. That was not
and
a long.
If they do, sign them up today. Yeah.
That was not a long-term goal. So yeah, a few years ago, St. Luke's really actively pursued the concept of time, talent, and treasure as stewardship. And it made sense to me instinctually. It's something that I got right off the bat and kind of sung to my heart. And then it became that much more powerful when my husband was transitioning jobs and we were looking at months without a paycheck. And it just became that much more of an aha, like church, this building functions, yes, because there are people that pay the heat and pay the lights, but there are also people that donate their time to do Oasis and a million other things around here. And to me, that was how that's how we get the community and the conversation and the integration and diversity and inclusion that we all are striving for. And so I love being able to share that message, that philosophy that St. Luke's is committed to, and being able to be a part of it in my daily life.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's no question you have donated in all three of those areas, and St. Luke's is the better for it. Thank you so much for sharing your time here today. We're very grateful.
Thanks, Deanna. My honor.